Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, wherever you join us from. I want to welcome you once again to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show right here on the Guyanese Critic platform on Facebook, and we also coming to you on YouTube, Guyanese Critic. It's August the 12th, 2022, and this time there will be no referee in the middle because it's just me and Freddie, and there's no critic in the house today to do any refereeing. In fact, we are allowing tonight to be the people's night. Questions are going to come. We have many issues to discuss tonight, and we want to hear from you. We have a brand new format here that we're going to experiment on. It can't be just that you're talking to people and you're hearing the views and what is happening to the what is happening in the past and those kind of things. So what is important is that you also have a lot of issues which are affecting you, many things, social issues, economic issues, and of course you would have your concerns about the government and the opposition. We want to hear your thoughts. Make it short and snappy. We're not going to have any lines available like in telephone lines. We're working on that. What we do have is the our Facebook page. So you're going to go there and you're going to drop your questions, short and sweet. Let us have some discussion on it and let's see where it goes from here. Of course, tonight I want to say welcome once again to Freddie Kissoon, my co-host. Freddie, welcome. Sir, you look very sober in your colors tonight.
Beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. I'm sure.
I'm not. I
I'm
didn't say
sure your
anything about
parents and
beauty.
your grandparents. The beauty of the
Okay.
clothes. For our viewers this evening, wherever you are, Gildarie told you how to send in your questions. Please flood us with questions, things that are on your mind, things you want to know, and we'll be quite happy to answer it within the space of an hour. Please send in your questions. Now, when we announced that we were doing this format, I got a lot of emails with questions. And I told people I am not as young as Gildarie. I may not remember some of the questions. So please send your questions. Having said that, I want to tell you something about Gildarie.
You're talking about me tonight?
Yeah, I think it would be protocol for me to talk about what the venture Gildarie has gone into. And I will discuss that and then ask Gildarie to expand on his venture, because what I'm talking about here has been on my mind for the past 30, 40, 50 years. I will tell you what is that. But let me tell you about Gildarie venture. There are three things. There are three things that if I sit down with the president, I would ask him to pursue. And so by 2030, when he cannot run again, he would have built up an enormous legacy. The point is not to live forever, but to leave something that will live forever. We will forever hear about Burnham, Jagan, Walter Rodney, Isu Prasad in this country. I think Dr. Irfan Ali should try to leave such a legacy. Now, the three things that I would speak to him about, and I will leave the Gildarie venture for the last, and so Leonard could come in and expand on that. One is, it has been for too long since independence that the working class, the working people of this country, soldiers, police, teachers, small farmers, employees, have not risen to the level they should. I think Burnham tried it, and Burnham failed because the framework he used was one-manism. I am Forbes Burnham. I know what is right. I tell you this. Chedi Jagan, I believe in his heart, was the man to do it. But Jagan died about 4 or 5 years after he came into power. He died in 1977, he came into power in 1992. There is time now for any government to sit down and elevate the bulk of working people in this country. I think we have some money, and we will be having some money the next 10 years to help push the state in that direction and push our policymakers in that direction. The second thing is, and I'm going to get criticism for this, but I'm saying this without any apologies. I'm saying this because I believe Guyana needs it. And I'm saying this because it's in my non-academic heart and in my academic mind. It is time that the African people get into established business. We need a thriving, expanding, petty bourgeois African Guyanese class. And I believe the state should play its role in that. Now, if you're listening, if you're viewing this, you're going to say, but Freddie, what about Indians? What about the Amerindians? I am not juxtaposing them as against what the state should do for small African business people. To my mind, that is one of the great legacies waiting for Dr. Ali, is to help African Guyanese get into entrepreneurship and sustain it. I will give you one example about the state. Former Prime Minister Tony Blair was addressing a prestigious conference about the state of international relations and the state of Western power in the world. And he said there was one point in which the Western world was in jeopardy, and he cited the financial crisis in the US 15 years ago. And he said it was the intervention of the state under Barack Obama that saved the day. So the state can get into helping sustain private production. Finally, to Gildarie. This is important for advertisers and the ministries who are listening. Gildarie had some health issues and at Kaicho News and other issues, and he retired. He likes to say retired or resigned from Kaicho News, and he went into business. This is the business Leonard Gildarie is into. He will explain it to you. My job is to appeal to people in the framework of the delivery I just made for this country to help nascent small business to grow. Mr. Gildarie has put up 2 large screens at the overhead pass. It caters for advertising. It's the latest technology. Mr. Gildarie's business depends on advertising on those screens. I'm appealing to you, business people, the ministries. Start patronizing a small man so he could sustain his small business. We need the expansion of small businesses in this country. I think saying that is pushing an open door. I think any policymaker who argues against that would never argue against it because it's election disaster. So we need to help small business. Why would you, looking at this program and you're a government minister, you're a businessman, you wouldn't want to help Leonard Gildarie's business to thrive? Leonard, what is this business about? Tell our viewers.
I'm not sure. You took a lot of liberties tonight. But Freddie, thank you very much. I know that you're a friend, and despite your hostilities at times directed towards me, and I'm just kidding. You're my friend. I'm going to buy a burger for you. I really didn't want to discuss this because, I mean, business and we have a very serious talk show. But I always view my life, ladies and gentlemen, as a kind of a lesson, as a kind of a learning process. And I like to teach people. I teach my staffers and so on. I retired last year and I asked the government for permission to put up some very large screens on these banks. First time ever that anybody has really come up with that idea. And I got that from a couple of friends who thought it was a wonderful thing. So I said, government, you have those overhead passes not doing anything. Could we have permission to put it up? And so the government gave us permission to put up some very large screens, the most modern in the entire Caribbean. And so I had very little money, and I got fortunately, I got somebody to put up the financing for it, one of my friends in Florida. And we're gonna commission those screens tomorrow. But what is interesting is the way that we went about financing that venture, and the kind of local capacity, Freddie, that I was able to build. It was amazing. I took two Amerindian guys, near in 50s. I took a an excavator operator, and I together with the electrician, we learned about technology that was the most modern in the Caribbean, and we put it up there. And we have some screens that's amazing. And if you see the quality, but aside from that, we were able to do something else. And I'm bringing a point here. I really didn't want to talk about this. We introduced into this country for the very first time, using the technology. And remember, I'm not a technology. My background is not from that. I'm more media. But we introduced into this country for the first time traffic cams. So if you headed down this bank, and that happened by accident, we wanted to put some traffic cams on the overpass, and from time to time, put it up on the screen, and people could be able to see what the traffic is like ahead at maybe at the Harbour Bridge. So you're at Houston, you could have an idea what's happening at the Harbour Bridge. So we just put it up on Facebook, and people said keep it there. We have 8 traffic cams. That is for the first time I'm being told in the entire Caribbean, free of cost for the people. And the point that I'm trying to make there is that if you're really pushy in this country, you made an appeal just now for our Afro Guyanese, and I don't like using Afro and Indian. My eldest kid, Freddie, is has just gone to Holland. He is Afro Guyanese, if you want to put that. His mother is from Guyana, lives in St. Martin. He's gone to Holland to do law. And I've never seen, my grandfather was Chinese. And to be honest, I'm very uncomfortable when I hear people talking about Afro and Indian because I don't see it that way. My grandfather's Chinese. My mom is Indian. I have Amerindian cousins. I
And you
like
have an
food from
African
all.
son.
Yes, and so these things, when I hear people talking about using words like this, and I get very upset, and sometimes that's why I moved away from the media a little. I wanted to determine, which direction am I headed. But coming forward, I do believe that we have the capacity as a people right in Guyana. We have our people just need that little nudge. Maybe what David Hines should have said, and looking back at that interview, that show that we had the other night, and that's not even a show. It should be a discussion. We should describe it. But I think when we look at our people, if you could come up with statistics to show that maybe the banks are not giving enough loans to a certain category of people, maybe between 20 and 30, those are the kind of figures that we need to work with because it's available in America, Freddie. When you come here and you want to make your people, you want to introduce capacity and people want to take it to the next level, you got to start giving them the kind of push. But if you don't change your attitude and move away from being an employee or start thinking as an employer or how could I move this, it doesn't happen overnight. You see rich people and you want to know how they have money. Freddie, you would know that many times when we were putting up this project, I cried. I'm a big man, but I go home, my back is aching. We went into the morning putting up these screens, and we made many mistakes, plenty mistakes. Even up to now, we making mistakes. But the process of learning and where we are at, I believe if we to teach our people that it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to get it wrong because what you learn from those mistakes is what's going to help you to become successful. And I could tell you tomorrow we're going to commission those screens. I have Minister Deodat in there and a couple of the others. And as I speak right now, those screens are up there and private sector has been very, how you say it, very kind to us. I don't have, I am not, how you say it, friends with government per se. I sit on here. I don't have a government ad on there. It's not for the sake of not going behind them, but I haven't come around to that as yet from any ministry or anything. And I use those screens to educate our people on the bridge opening, on domestic violence, on crime. If you see something, report something, don't litter our place. I use that because I'm a responsible person. But the reality, Freddie, as we head straight into it, is that our people need to be guided, and the government has to play a big role. But it's not only the government. This last elections, 2020, has raised a lot of troubling questions as to the role of the church. as to the role of some NGOs. You're talking about the human rights on every one of them.
Tell me, tell me,
What are
tell
you
me.
really doing to educate the people, to push them to really elevate themselves? And those are some of the issues, that we have to, as a people in Guyana, these are serious issues that we have to talk about. Somebody said one of the things that we have to talk about tonight is wages and salaries, and maybe we could talk about that. My partner tell me he don't go across. My business partner tell me he don't go to the Starbucks market, and I'm gonna hand it over to you. But something happened to my wife yesterday. We preparing for
The luncheon
the, the,
tomorrow.
the the commission and right. She parked her car in front of Shell Mohammed and about
Normal
two
Street.
buildings away, Alabama Trading. She goes to the market, comes back and find the two mirrors missing. I am to learn that all over that area there, it's happening all the time. The police are not doing anything much or are powerless to do anything. But guess what is the problem? Our people, that area there, I used to go in Starbuck Market, and I used to want to read the books. There were a couple bookstalls in the middle of the
Yeah, I know,
market,
man. I know.
and those were the lovely times to me. Freddie, I don't go to Starbuck Market anymore. My partner tells me he doesn't take his family there, and that's a beautiful place to go to. It is a lot of history there. That clock is up there. That whole Demico area there. People don't go there every day. People are getting robbed. The people are getting harassed, and from the touts, from everybody that's there, and there's a police outpost right there. That's one issue that we have to start taking the bull by the horns. I told the police that we have to find the man who did that. I went to the police station, and they were moving a little slow. I go back, and I got the name of the person who did it. The cameras weren't working, but the people said this man did it. Me taking the initiative of doing that. But I want to stop here. Enough about me, Freddie. Over to you, man.
Well, it wasn't really about you.
Thank you.
It's about the business. You have a business, and I share this program with you, and I believe I should appeal to the wider society there to support your business. Not because you're Leonard Gildarie, but support small business. Leonard, there are two persons I am going to bring on this program. I am going to hold them by the scruff of their neck if they refuse to come on this program. I am going to get some huge monster with claws to pick them up, put them in the car, and bring them here. One is a guy named Kwame. Kwame
Kwame
start
McCoy?
no,
Okay.
let's be serious. One is a guy named Kwame. Kwame was ride his bicycle and come to work at the key cutting place at Kwamina and Carmichael Street. That place named J. Duarte. It was there before you were born. And Kwame was a little guy training how to cut keys. Probably never got anything much. And I would go there and cut my keys, and over a period of time, I knew Kwame. You know, Kwame today has the largest key cutting place. It's next to Oasis, the famous Oasis Cafe in Carmichael Street. It's in
I
the
know that guy.
it's in the compound, and most people would think of going there. If you know how small Kwame started, now Kwame has his own two cars. He employs people, and that is a fantastic example of rise. The second one is Adrian Benjamin. Adrian Benjamin worked at a bakery in my area, Wortmanville, and delivered cakes from the bakery to my mother-in-law's supermarket. And so we got to know Adrian when I came back in '84 from studies abroad. And Adrian worked every day. You'd see Adrian bringing his Salara, coconut cake, and the bakery closed down in Wortmanville. And my mother-in-law said to Adrian, you know how long you're there in this business, you know to bake. Start your own bakery. Start from scratch. Leonard Gildarie, Adrian Benjamin's bakery is a household name in Buxton and adjacent villages. Adrian Benjamin gives out stipends. There's a word for it, I can't remember. To those who do well at common entrance. That is a fantastic example of a small guy rising. And I appeal to people to advertise in your firm because I saw you at Kaicho News. You were a journalist. You couldn't cope with Kaicho News anymore because of health and other issues, and you went into business. I would like 10 years from now, when I get old and Alzheimer's come in,
You mean when you get old?
but I'm old.
Okay, okay.
But as Alzheimer's coming, somebody would say to me, "You know the guy that you used to be on the program with? That man is doing well, but you know what he has? You know what business he's going into? We have to support small business people." I can't believe, Leonard, that anyone would not argue for societal help, societal patronage in pushing small business. You know, you said when you come on this program, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you have a thing about traffic. I have a psychic thing that stimulates yet lacerates my mind. Is what I see in the supermarket. The supermarkets, Gildarie, I am serious. What I see in the supermarket is a denial of all my activism in the 70s and 80s when I stood up with PPP, WPA, Picket, Black is Beautiful. We throw off the yoke of the white man. What I see people, and I look at them, Gildarie, I know these are ordinary Guyanese, lower middle class, buying foreign stuff. Gildarie, no person on TV, no person on social media could describe for you what you see in these people basket. Let me tell you something. You know why the white people that come down here, the foreign people coming in, do not buy sorrel juice, Gildarie? It's natural. They don't know about sorrel.
It's a marketing.
Sorrel, they don't know. We know about sorrel. So that guy from Minnesota who comes here and is working with Exxon, he doesn't know about sorrel. He never know about sorrel in Minnesota. Every guy needs to know about sorrel. Sorrel juice is one of the best juices in the world. And you would see these people, D, a West Bank small business, and DDL separately sells fresh sorrel juice in the supermarkets. And you see, so these Guyanese go, they pick up a box of apple juice. The white guy doesn't know about sorrel juice. So why is he going to go in the supermarket and pick up a box of sorrel juice? We know. And we know how nice it is. But, you know.
Thank you very much. So we head straight into it. So here's a couple of things. One person says, please look into the working of the private cars as taxis. I got a serious problem with that too. And now, on one hand, ladies and gentlemen, people are gonna, and Freddie, we gotta pay attention here because the law is the law. I have issues with squatting. I have issues with private car because the minute, and maybe you would disagree with this, and maybe there's going to be disagreement because you look at the humanitarian side of things. The minute that you start deviating from the law, you eventually allow things to creep in. Because I remember seeing a story, I think it was Central Housing and Planning. They were building a road, and because of squatting, the guy refused to move because his house fell on where the road is. I think they were able to eventually to resolve that matter. Squatting. Now, issue of private cars working taxi. The minute that you sit down in a car that is not authorized or legally allowed to fetch passengers as a hire car, if that car or that vehicle gets into an accident, Freddie Kissoon, you have no insurance to get. If you sit down in a minibus and there's 20 people in that minibus and that minibus is only allowed to fetch 13 persons, then that vehicle there, you're not going to get insurance if the insurance company going to get it. It's same thing with squatting. Squatting has so many things, but of course you could very well argue that people got a need. My office is along Red Road, Providence. That is where Sarwan's Mall is, Amazonian Mall. They have hotels going on all around there. At the head of Red Road, all the stalls are there. People are making a living. But guess what, Freddie? all the private hire cars are there too, and they got some of them are legally registered as HC or whatever it is that they have. But if you see the congestion that's happening there, and the police turn a blind eye on that, you look at Walker Roadhead, you look at Diamond Roadhead, the madness is happening because everybody wants to do what they feel like doing, and because nobody says anything, it allows itself to fester, and we see it blown into proportion. We do maintenance of our screens on the East Bank. Freddie Kissoon, I have to take you there. And if you guys don't know, go stand in the nights on those overpass and look down when those trucks are passing. Freddie, I've never seen anything as frightening as the trucks on the East Bank. That speed where those trucks are going with. If you pass Grove also heading on, now this is one of the things that's happening with regards to if you're having any kind of success story as a country, if you're having development, it comes at a cost. You're going to see roads being broken up. You're going to see congestion happening. But it should not be that we allow a runaway situation that is going to happen right across the place. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. One, people got to make a living. That's the argument that I'm hearing all the time versus illegality. Could you maybe give me a few
Well,
words on that?
everything is context. The way you presented it as an objective reality. But every reality has a context. When it comes to private cars hire, I think that's commonsensical. The private cars are at a disadvantage because their license is more, and therefore you are getting patronage that they should be getting from other people, and you are paying less. So I don't have a problem with that. I cannot accept people occupying a space where hire cars should occupy, and their cars are private. My opposition to that is clear. When it comes to squatting, I haven't got the fact. I didn't say facts, fact, singular. But I think this is one of the most underpopulated country in the world. It's huge, it's 83,000 square miles, and it has less than 800,000 people. I believe squatting is not
A big issue
insoluble.
now.
People, you need to get land. Those squatters need to get land, and we have the land available. You just need a framework. The government, the private sector, and people like the media need to compose a framework of giving people land. I know the government, and I want to use the adjective excellent. I know the government has embarked on excellent programs of house lots, but there are very, very poor people who are squatting, who perhaps need to be catered for. For example, if the small income plot is 80,000, do a mean test of single mothers or people with security guard and reduce it to 40,000. But when it comes to squatting, I don't think that should be a problem.
I don't think it's such a big problem now.
Let me put
I
my
just
phone
make a
off.
relevance. Thank you very much for that, Freddie. I think
Yeah.
you overdo the do when it comes. My grandmother would have said that. Here's another one for you. And that was a very good point. GRA Lamaha closed for lunch at 11:30. Somebody put this up today, Freddie. GRA Lamaha and Mr. Stacey, if you're listening, closed for lunch at 11:30 to 1 o'clock. Then closes for the day at 2:30. Operated a total of 5 hours daily to handle the country's business. Welcome to progressive, fast developing, oil producing Republic of Guyana. We need to do better.
That somebody sent.
Yes, somebody has sent it. Yes.
I did a column. In 2019. When I went to uplift my car, I was told by my friends I could save a substantial lot by importing it. So they imported it in my name. When I went to that wharf, customs was on lunch, and I
The whole
couldn't-
custom?
Yeah, at that wharf, it's I don't know, it's in Lombard Street, the end of Lombard Street. Lombard Street ends there. That's the southern part of Lombard Street ends there. I don't know if it's GNIC or what have you. custom. We talked about that on this program. How could you have a service when you close at lunch? When is at lunchtime, workers get time to do their business. If you are going to get your license renewed and you're working from 8 to 12, when the 12 o'clock lunch break come, you're going to run down to get your driver's license. This thing about customs and other places closing at lunchtime. Gildarie, I am 34 years in media, and I am more than 50 years in social activism. Somebody said in a letter yesterday on me in the Kaicho News, apart from my immediate family, my dog, I don't love anybody else. But when you're writing about these things, protesting about these things, demonstrating about these things, and you see 5 years pass, 10 years pass, and it's still the same, you wonder if, why Mr. Stacia, who lived in the US and knows how the system works, why should he come here and got people lining up and waiting because customs officials are having lunch? But anyway, please keep sending your questions, and I hope we have some questions on the politics of the day.
Thank you very much. Here's another one that somebody is making. They're just making a point. Greetings, sir. I'm not a pensioner yet, but getting there. Sir, do you know that since the old age pension increased in March 22nd from 25,000 to 28,000, during the same month, all the food stuff prices was increased. There was no consideration by the government, and the main focus was on school, roads, and sports, while the old folks feel neglected. Well, there's the people saying that.
I get so much. One of my complaints against the Guyana Human Rights Association is that the Guyana Human Rights Association knows nothing, absolutely nothing about the human rights situation in this country. If you see the emails, you worked at Kaicho, you see people calling at Kaicho, and you have a human rights body there, and you have millions of complaints to Freddie Kissoon, to Critic, to the editors of the paper. And when I hear you talking about this old age pension thing, people who receive old age pension are people who need it. The upper middle class, the middle class, the petty bourgeoisie, the rich peasants don't take old age pension after 65. So it's commonsensical to look at those people who are receiving old age pension and increase it. I can't understand why they would not increase old age pension, but there's something else I want to touch on, and we're getting into something in politics now. Gildarie, I shop in the supermarket all the time. I know, Gildarie, I know with authority, absolute authority, expanding authority, how the cost of living has gone up. I buy these things last year, and I see what are the prices this year. So the cost of living is going up and up. I think President Ali will have to intervene here in his cabinet with stakeholders. But one of the things I don't understand, and this has been my life, fighting for the smaller people. How can I go into the supermarket, Gildarie, and I have to pay more for oil? I have to pay more for plantains. I have to pay more for greens. I have to pay more for vegetables. And the minibusmen cannot increase their fare. Well, then if the minibusmen cannot increase their fare, the supermarkets must not increase their prices. I am not a fan of minibus people. I think we should get rid of minibuses and bring those long buses, like when I was a student at UG. But if supermarkets, if importers, you know what is the price for plantains now, you know what is the price for tomatoes. If a farmer could say, this is my price now for tomato, fine. Why is he not being stopped from raising his price? But minibus men are stopped from raising $20 more. You know what I think those minibus people should do and those hire car drivers should do? is get a lawyer. The problem is getting a lawyer. Lawyers in this country are terrible people. They do no pro bono work for people.
No, but
Absolutely.
there's a place I think at is it Murad's building? There's a
There,
place
that's the legal aid clinic.
there legally.
They wouldn't take such a case. They take case of domestic violence, domestic abuse.
So they pick and choose, or is that by policy?
I don't know what's their mandate, but if a minibus go to them to ask the court to grant an injunction, restraining the government from stopping them from increasing their fare. I don't know.
We might have to ask somebody there to probably
But
legally it.
here's my point. All right, you can't increase your fare by $20. Good. Stop there. You can't do that. Fine. But why are people increasing the oil that I have to buy and eat?
Freddie, all over the look. Let me tell you what's happening.
I want the government to explain that.
No,
to
no,
me.
the government is very. If you look at the cost of living, I have family that live in the New York area, and they're going to tell you if you go to Costco and a couple of the stores that they shop, the supermarkets that they shop at, they're going to tell you that even some items are missing from the shelves. There's a worldwide problem with shipping right now. I had my screens came in. I think it was posted somewhere in November last year. It went to Jamaica and it stood in Jamaica about 2 months because there was no ship moving from Jamaica. Do you know the cost of a container that moved before the pre-pandemic to the post-pandemic? We had a container that was about 7,000 that moved to about 20,000 US dollars. You know what that impact? How much that impacted on goods? But the problem that we have at the end of the day, there's going to be very little appreciation from the people on the road who got to go to the supermarket and buy a pound of cheese or at the end of the day. Some people go to the supermarket every single day or to the nearby shop. I could barely afford to buy an egg and a tennis ball. That's how bad the situation. I'm not saying that it's gotten progressively bad compared to about 5 years back, but it's a squeeze that everybody is feeling because you can't tell me. I don't think there's any workplace in Guyana which has increased their salaries dramatically that is really going to cushion the
Gildarie,
people.
I haven't had an increase for my columns at Kaicho News, and I don't think
Did you ask Glenn?
I don't think Glenn would be annoyed at me saying that. I mean, I'm protecting my rights. I haven't had an increase in my column for almost 15 years.
Wow.
So what I am doing then, and of course, I don't get any money from the PPP. I'm hearing all somebody send a note to me saying, Sherrod Duncan saying in the pay of the PPP. No, I don't mind getting a couple $1 million.
Well,
They will have to tell me what kind of work I have to do.
Oh, okay. I was
But
about to ask you that.
I am feeling the squeeze of the cost of living. Gildarie, I haven't had a salary increase to my columns for the past 15 years. And I don't think Mr. Lally, if he listens to this program, will be annoyed. Why should he be annoyed when I'm speaking about my life?
It is a big issue. You know, I've seen it, and every day I hear it. People, get hold of you, say it's really tough. You go to some places, maybe at I went into a hotel. I don't want to call it a hotel, and we were about to have dinner, and a girl, pretty girl, she says, "Hey, I need a raise," and it's become a norm. You go there many times. Everybody want a raise because the same. So I said, "What's happening?" They said, "Look, they cut our pay. They cut the pay at the casino for the people because they're not getting that amount." So if inflation has allowed the prices to go up, how you believe the people are making out, Freddie? It is difficult, difficult, difficult. The other thing that we got to look at, and I see Mr. Simeon here is talking with regards to the implementation and the enforcement of weights on our roadways. I agree with that. The problem that we have in Guyana is enforcement, big time. But come back to what I was saying there. It is a fact that not everybody in Guyana could be able to afford a house, Freddie. It is going to be a fact because not everybody is going to work. There's some people who just is not going to meet the criteria. The bank ain't going to lend you no money, but this way the government.
Do you
is
know
gonna
what the
have to-
Bank of Nova Scotia has done? The banks in this country is comprise a dictatorship. You know what the Bank of Nova Scotia has done? If anybody's listening to this, it is the truth, it is a fact. If you have less than $1 million in an account, Scotia charges you $5,000 every year to maintain it. You could imagine that, and nobody does anything about that. That is a violation of banking rules. You can't tell people, but no, you pick on the minibus, but Scotia takes 5,000 every year from you if your bank account is 1 million or less. These are the kinds of things that I have spent my whole life fighting for. The poor, the powerless, the ordinary man, the ordinary woman, the ordinary child. Gildarie, you say I'm an old man. Of course
I
I'm
didn't say that.
I'm an
You
old
just-
man. I'm an old man, which means I know a lot and I've seen a lot. It is psychically traumatizing to see how in my youthful days at UG, my hair long, I'm a hippie with a flower in my hair and shouting power to the people.
You're a hippie?
Where is the power to the people? Where is the power to the people
but
now?
it is a look. We have to, if we want to progress as a country, and this is me. This is what I would have seen, and I've seen so many things over since some 2020. I started paying very close attention to people's lives and the way that they're interacting with each other, and of course, what would have evolved from that 2020 elections. Freddie, I was awakened by that 2020 election because I could not believe that something like that would have been happening to our country. And I started paying very close attention, and I see people in some very raw moments, and it is unbelievable. And I think we have not been exposed. And if you look at the Trinidad, I started paying attention to Trinidad when they started. I think it was the chicken curry and curry chicken issue came up, um, and I realized that our people has been largely insulated. They have become beaten into submission over the years from, I would say, from being from first of all the colonial rule, and then you move over to a government which did not allow us a lot of freedom, and that led to a lot of mass migration.
Gildarie.
That's my feeling.
Something wrong with this country, Gildarie.
People-
Let's put in it mildly.
No, but people were beaten into submission.
Gildarie,
Freddie.
so are other post-colonial countries, Gildarie.
So we have
This
an awakening.
country has a special problem. It's a special problem that
Everybody, the people?
genius psychologists have to study it. Little Barbados, little Bermuda. You cannot let those things that happen here go without notice. There would either be a deluge of protests in the media, deluge of physical protests on the street. Gildarie, this country worries anyone who's an academic, who's trained in philosophy, trained in sociology. These people, nothing moves the Guyanese people, the kind of human
Are we
right.
too laid back?
I think no. I think it's psychic. I think something happened to this country when Burnham and Rodney had their battle. Rodney was murdered, and the middle class started to leave. The Guyanese people, but you could
Was
imagine
that the trigger point, or did it start before that?
it started with Burnham. You know what it is for your child, your Hindu, Muslim, Christian child. You growing up in a home, and then you go to school the next day at UG, and they tell you have to go into the interior for 3 months. It started with Burnham. Forbes Burnham destroyed this country. He remains a demonic figure in this country. He remains a demonic figure. This psychic breakdown, Leonard Gildarie, began with Burnham. Forget about this masturbatory exclamation that he was a visionary. Those are his soulmates saying that, who probably live, when he died, probably migrate and live happily in New York and Brooklyn. But this psychic thing, this psychic breakdown occurred before Burnham, during Burnham, and when he killed Rodney. I think the spirituality of the society died. But I believe when the PPP came into power in 92 and began to have a flourishing of businesses, you would think that people feel safer now to talk. Gildarie, and for those viewers out there, you see my email, you see my email box, and you would leave this country right away. There are people complaining to me about things that happened to them. They're living in Minnesota, living in Wisconsin, and Mr. Kissoon, don't call my name. And they got serious public. A man said he thinks his brother-in-law killed his father over disagreement with the marriage. And he's giving me details and saying, could you investigate this, but don't call my name? And I have had so many of that. Gildarie, I am going to apologize to viewers here for what I'm about to say. It's not chauvinism, but I have to say it. I'm an encyclopedia of the psychic breakdown of this country. What people say to me, and you want to know, I say to them all the time, pen a letter, write the newspaper, go to your politician.
People are afraid of victimization, Freddie. You and I could talk about that.
Who's going to victimize them in Wisconsin?
Which country you living in, Freddie? Which country you living in? You want me to cite some cases?
No, man, they got people who get victimized, man.
Freddie, I was working at a newspaper, and I could tell you every single day, people would come in and say, Mr. Gildarie, please don't quote my name. I want you to do something. And hold on, we get so tired.
No, I can't accept what you're saying. I know victimization is a psychological process that exists all over the world. In democratic India, in democratic United States. But there's a psychic dimension to people's life in Guyana that is not reproduced in any other country in the world. Gildarie, I want people to send their comments. Name me one country in which the university produces no public comment on any issue at all. The mangroves are dying. Buildings are 6-story buildings are falling down and killing people. Rigging of election for 5 months. 34 is a.
Freddie, the elephant in the room there.
There's no other university
Freddie,
in the world.
But the elephant in the room, you were part of that. Did you ever do anything to say, look what you're doing? You know, you're inactive. You're not saying anything. Did you ever say anything to the university when you were there? I'm just asking.
You're too young to know my history.
No, but you need to tell me. I don't know.
You're too young to know
Did
my
you ever
history.
say to the vice chancellor, look what you guys
I got sued in court by 3 UG vice chancellor. I took the UG to court with Anil Nandalal as my lawyer.
I didn't know that. Sorry.
When they were discriminating in the acceptance of law students, man came to me in tears. His daughter friend, the bishop, got less grades than her, and she got in. I filed a writ against him. Anil Nandalal did a wonderful job. I don't know if Anil is listening to that, but I thought that case did help his career because he was excellent in it. I spent 26 years at UG and 26 years of opening my mouth and being victimized. You're too young. You got to start studying.
No, what I'm learning, you know.
But the point is, I agree that people fear victimization. That applies to the world, and that applies to Guyana, but not the psychic thing in which Gildarie, I live across the road from Movie Town, right across the road. Movie Town has a huge car park in which underneath is a sewage. The sewage has broken down. The road from railway embankment to Movie Town, you turn into Movie Town, you turn into Marseille. That street there, Movie Town built. That street is smelling of sewage for the past 2 years. You know that is going to stay like that for the next 50 years? That wouldn't happen in Barbados. That wouldn't happen in Little Bermuda. That wouldn't happen in the Turks and Caicos Island that only have 40,000 people. There's something wrong with this nation, Leonard Gildarie.
We need to start getting up and get. Here's a comment from Mrs. Siratan. Gildarie, a lot of people have issues with the NIS contributions. It's being said and there are proof of irregularities at this agency. Are you aware? Let me be very careful here. I've heard stories of if you don't have any, Freddie, if you don't have enough contributions, you could make it happen that at a point in time of retirement, all of a sudden your contributions are in there that you never paid. It could happen. That's one side of it. The other side of it is the length of time, and we'd have to bring NIS representatives here to give us a state as to what is really happening, because I think they've been working to reduce those claim time. It used to take months and months before they actually hear back, but I've been hearing a lot of stuff of irregularities there, and that was a question I asked to the Minister of Labour. If you have two inspectors for a region, I think before time it used to be less than that, how are you able to see all the businesses or inspect all the businesses that are there? I'm hearing, and I was hearing that they just walk in, said, okay, let me see your records. But if you're inspector, Freddie Kissoon, you have to inspect. The word inspector means that you have to inspect, meaning let me see the evidence. But there's other things that you do too. You don't tell a man when you come in. You don't give them advance notice. The minute that you do that, people are going to be prepared for you. GR is not supposed to tell you when they come in or if the suspect something is wrong. I think if you really want to catch people in the act, you just go by the store. You go to all the Chinese places. There's no bills. There's nothing.
The Chinese don't
So I
subscribe to
don't
VAT.
understand.
The Chinese
I
don't
don't
give
know.
their staff annual leave.
Freddie, I bought him
In a small country like
I bought
this,
him my screens
you
and I
could
paid
police
almost
those things.
$2 million in VAT. I hear people bringing in bicycles or television and put it in as bicycles. I'm not sure if it's happening in the GRA. Come back to NIS. There's a big problem happening to NIS right now. If you're a legitimate business is registered, they're gonna come after you because they dare you in the system. But what is NIS really doing about those businesses that are operating? Because people gotta live. You're working, self-employed. We have a problem right now. I think it is the government that is saying to us, and NIS is saying, based on the actuarial studies, I think every couple of years they have to do what's the state of NIS, and it's coming back that they pay not more than what they're getting in right now, and on the long term, although they have money right now, they're gonna run out of money. That's a worrying thing. Now we know that this government is not gonna allow that, or any government that comes in, they're gonna plug money into NIS. But really, there's millions of dollars that is out there. That every day you see people driving Land Cruisers, have big houses, and when you check, Freddie, they're selling spare parts, they're doing this business, that business, and they're paying not 1 cent NIS. I happen to know a worker who has never paid an NIS his entire life. He's working about $300,000 a month. Guess what? You say, so why didn't you pay NIS? He says, but I never did it and it's too late for me to do that. Guess what? He's going to end up at about when he is ready to receive or enter into pensionable age. He's just going to receive the old people pension and that's it. Freddie, how is he going to survive?
I cannot.
Many thousands of people
I
like
cannot
that.
understand. Look, I'm an old man, so it's up to people like you to help change this society. I've given the society over 50 years of energy. Um, it's up to people. I can't understand, Gildarie, why in a small country of 760,000 people, you cannot police the Chinese supermarkets in getting them to adhere to VAT and giving people their annual leave. I know 3 Chinese supermarkets. Gildarie, I know all the employees of the supermarket. They talk to me, we talk. I know 3 Chinese supermarkets in which the young ladies are not getting their annual leave. That is a violation of the law. But let us get in to the psychological analysis of this country. Gildarie, there have been a series of letters in the Kaicho News the past 3 days, calling me all kinds of things. One diaspora guy named Charles Sugwem, who does the Globe Span thing, he say I'm an unfriendly person. Another guy says I only love my dog and my family. But you get these kinds of things when you criticize this society for what it is. Take civil society. All civil society could do. And these people are dishonest. These people are demonic. These people are morally unfit to be part of modern society. We have a country where human rights complaints are mountainous. And all you can see is civil rights society. Oh God, National Resource Fund. They didn't make it democratic. They put their own people on the board. Oh God, they're not adhering to the Constitution, and they gone where they picket outside the president's office. Oh God, we need to bring people to the negotiating table, all people. But nobody pickets these civil society people. You don't see them talking about the NIS thing. You know, not one civil society group, not one. I repeat for those who are viewing this thing, not one civil society group has spoken of how the banks, the commercial banks, violate not the middle class, not the upper middle class, the ordinary people rights. Gildarie, this is common sense. I have a bank account. I put my money in it every 6 months. I put my money in it every year. My grandmother, sick in Afghanistan. I went to Afghanistan to look after her. I miss a deposit in my bank. The bank account then ran dormant because I was in Afghanistan looking after my grandmother. And Gildarie, all you have to do is come back from Afghanistan and say, I didn't make a deposit and it ran dormant. I'm making a deposit now. Deposit is accepted, it's thing in your account, and life goes on. The bank is telling you when your thing runs dormant, proof of address, TIN, 2 pieces of ID, statement from employer. Gildarie, you fail to put a deposit, it becomes dormant. Then go and put a deposit in it. What is this thing about 10 pieces of documents? And what? Guess what? These civil society people, you know, there's a man named Ralph Ramkaran. Ralph Ramkaran and I don't get along simply because of issues of threats of libel. But Ramkaran said something that today remains one of the most beautiful statements ever made by a citizen in this country. Now, if he's listening, him and I have our problems, but I'm saying he made one of the most beautiful statements that I have quoted and continue to quote. He says civil society must look at other issues that cry out for redress rather than issues that have sex appeal. You know what he's talking about? They gone outside the president's office. They writing thing in the papers. Starbuck, we got to talk about Starbuck News. You know why I wanted to have this program? I wanted to have this program because you could have a say about social phenomena that I couldn't have in the Kaicho News, although I'm 28 years with the Kaicho News. Everybody, politicians across the ethnic and racial divide, are afraid to talk about the press because if I talk about Starbuck Newsman, would they carry a letter by me? Would they interview me? I'm a politician. How I could, I know they do wrong, but I can't say it. But I could say what I know about Starbuck News. I could say it here. Nobody can dare call me. But at the newspaper, Freddie said something, man, and then you hear Freddie don't like nothing about that anymore.
I don't want to talk about the conversation that I had with the bank manager this morning. It didn't went very nice, but I am tempted. Maybe I'm waiting to see what happens in the next 2 weeks. But Freddie, I'm going to ask our operator just to give us about 15 minutes more because I think people are asking, just let us do that. Let us just wait a little more and give them some more time. We didn't tell you, but I think we did mention it the last time. Ganesh Mahipal.
It's here on Monday. Yeah.
He is coming. I think it's Monday.
Monday.
He was supposed to be here tonight, but unfortunately, and our condolences, he had a death in the family, and he asked for some time. He did call me, and so it is going to be interesting on Monday.
I have to update our viewers on the president. The president had indicated that he would come, and then he got busy and visited the U.S. So when he get the time, he will be here. But that's an agreement that he will come.
Are you going
So,
to be up in the president's face?
Gildarie, you critical Sherrod Duncan. Could you go on with the
I
seriousness of
don't
the
know. I could
program?
ask you, you're my friend.
But you gotta ask me sensible questions.
Okay, it's
You
not
gotta ask me,
sensible.
you gotta ask me questions that don't insult your viewers.
Okay, okay. It's my friend Freddie Kissoon, and I could be
Yeah, well,
happy
if it's my
doing
friend,
that.
I expect you to behave like my friend, and not to behave
So
like
I can't
And not
attack
to
you.
behave like Sherrod Duncan and
Um,
Woodford Burke.
I'm going to pretend I don't hear that. The most important, let me see, this is Gillian Lewis now. It's a consumer's duty to check these things before buying, and if you find expired goods, to report them. Very good, Gillian there, and I must tell you, you go into a place, and I think many times you go into places or you hear stories from people, and you ask them, "What did you do with it?" And the people say, "Man, left the thing alone." But who can do it? Freddie Kissoon and Gildarie can do it. Or somebody else will do it. You got to start, and I think that's what Freddie is trying to say. We have got to stop taking it that it's the other man's duty. You have a right in your neighborhood to make sure that you tell your neighbor that you can't do this. You can't throw garbage over the 4 foot, because if that happens, it fills up my area as well, and it smells. You got to start saying, call the NDC. My neighbor, the drain, they didn't want to dig the drain, and my we called the NDC and them, and the NDC came and dig it, and I tell them, you need to cut the tree there because I can't see when I come out my yard. It is my yard, it is my life, and it's affecting me, so why should I shut my mouth when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, or when you're doing what you're doing, and it's inconveniencing me. You go to a place and you see they're selling you something that's substandard. You call
Gildarie,
Guyana Bureau of
the
Standards.
lady talk about the lady. Let me give you more example of the permanent psychic breakdown of this country. The lady talk about expired goods. Do you know for the past 20 years, this country does not have a consumer association? It died 20 years ago. Little Bermuda, the Maldives Island, all those people, Malta, they don't have the population of 700,000. Those people have thriving consumer association. We don't have a human rights, not the official human rights body that most countries have. We don't have a functional human rights organization. We don't have a functional consumer association. We have a bar association. UWI did a study and found out that our country, Guyana, has more lawyers per capita than the rest of the Caribbean. And you wonder what the Bar Association does. When these people get, a man gets 3 years because he found a spent shell on the road. A guy invades people out, shoot them up, kill them. He plead guilty, get 4 years. What the Bar Association does? Where is the life of this country? All you pick up the papers, people who are obscure, one-man army. The Starbuck News give them big coverage. Where is the Guyana Consumers Association? You know what I did? You know what I did in 3-4 times in my column? I objected to a hardware store. When you coming out, the guard looking in your bag. Gildarie, I said you are not looking into my bag. Now I see in Massey Supermarket and Giftland Supermarket, which name Max, Food Max, you have to show the guard your bill. Now I don't know why you have to show the guard your bill, but they look at it and I let them see. They dare not read what is on that bill. I see they look at the bill and it's all right. They dare not read what is on what I purchased. But these are the kind of things I wrote about that hardware store in which a guard looking into your bag. And you know, not one soul ever picked up on that. We have, but guess what? The civil society groups tomorrow Saturday or Monday, they're in front of the office of president. We want to be on the National Resource Fund. We want to see the document if you're bringing back hydropower. And they don't go outside the NIS.
It
Well,
is
from
true.
Quran, will forever live in my memory. He said those things bring sex appeal. And
I'm gonna invite him. I'm gonna invite him here.
But the man said they cost him out for that. You imagine the former Speaker of the National Assembly say civil rights groups could look into other pressing things rather than those that have sex appeal. And the man said he get a good cussing down for that. And guess what? Nobody, there was no mention in the newspaper. There was no civil society group that asked, why was Ralph Karam cussed down? But every day, he's telling the woman every day is how we could tell the woman you need a dildo. How you look, you see what, they got a group of women called the usual suspects. Every month is a letter. Every month is a letter. And they didn't write a letter about why they cussed down poor Ralph Karam. This is a society we have.
Indira is asking about the NDC. I think she's questioning the NDC and whether they're really serving the purpose.
Which the NDC structure in general.
That is, and I think, Freddie, a couple of years back, we passed some laws to improve and give some more autonomy to our local government organs. And I'm always bothered. Do you know how much I pay for my house that I'm living in? Taxes. I think it comes up not more than $5,000 per year. Well, you expect
I pay 18.
18
for my little
why should
thing in
you
Tokan.
you want to go that road? You want to walk that road?
What walk with you?
The 18,000 where your little house.
You want to come and see?
I see. By the way,
you know, I had to fix up Koshet Satal, the Jiahu told me build a mansion. Do you know my wife when I live in a bedroom? I am the only person that, well, I am not working class. I am just above working class. But I'm the only person with some little name in this country and is a university lecturer and a columnist. I don't live in a self-contained bedroom. You name me anybody of my standard and stature that doesn't have a self-contained bedroom. Come in my house and see what I have. Do you know what computer I have? I have a computer given to me by a friend, and it doesn't have facilities for Zoom. When I told David Hines I don't have facilities for Zoom, he said, "What?"
Could I see your phone, Freddie? I think we should show them your phone. Ladies
My
and gentlemen, Freddie's phone. He doesn't have WhatsApp. He doesn't have anything, Facebook, anything.
I'm happy with that, man.
And he's happy, but
Y'all want to show them a hairstyle? Y'all always commenting on my hairstyle.
But back to Indira, NDCs, they had passed some laws a couple of years back which was supposed to give NDCs some greater powers. Freddie, I don't think nothing has really improved. You see NDCs and you look at, yes, I think the Grove Diamond one, I think Gita Ramarine and so where I'm living is trying as much as possible, because Grove and Diamond, the way that you know it has gone, it has expanded in ways you can't believe. Thousands of people live in there. But how does an NDC afford to do? Yes, they get some government subvention, maybe I think a couple $1 million, but how can they afford to give the necessary services? And when they're not being allowed to do what they're supposed to do to raise whatever funds it is, to carry out the duties and whatever it is that they're supposed to be doing. But I do agree, and this is a topic that we have to have a discussion on. How is it that you cannot, my issue is, Freddie, you cannot depend on the government to do everything?
Well, I almost lost my wife to a heart attack. I don't know if she's listening. My wife and I take leisurely drive over the place. So we got up and she said she wants to see this place called Good Hope. I've never been to Good Hope. Gildarie, when we drove into Good Hope, the first thing that greeted us was an old fridge right at the entrance. Then as we go up, garbage all over the place. And you wonder sometimes what the NDC doing. I mean, even to clear those places, the NDC doesn't. You know, I had a rude awakening about 10, 15 years ago. 10 years ago, Georgetown was stink. Georgetown was the stinkest capital in the entire world. And when I'm driving up East Coast, I said, wait a minute. is this only the city council don't clean up garbage? The whole of East Coast right up towards the canal stink like Georgetown. So you don't know what the NDC is doing, but
I think, look, Freddie, I think the only way you could do that, let me tell you what happened. Through my street, I see the big trucks and everything coming through. And I stopped them. I said, please don't use the truck to come through the street again. There's a way how you do that. This street here, we have rich people that have big houses. I think you have to, if you really, the NDC want to really serve the purpose, let the NDC try to do a street by street if you want to do whatever it's a competition, or if you form a committee and you encourage that and said, look, we're going to have a committee to protect the street here, whether you have speed bumps or barriers or whatever it is, and you're responsible for your street. And if anything goes wrong or you want some help, we could put a fund into place to make that happen. Freddie, there's so many ideas that you could play with that doesn't have to depend on Irfan Ali to be the only one or the opposition to do the job. The people got to start understanding that they have the powers too. And that is how easy it is.
talking about this nation of sheep.
A nation of sheep.
That stink road that leads to Movie Town, that the 5-year-old baby is going to be 25 and drive through that street and say to his friend in the car, man, this street stink. And his friend, when he go home, his friend say, there was a guy named Freddie Kissoon 25 years ago to talk about the thing. What changes in this place? And I'm telling you this. This guy, Dr. Irfan Ali, I think he has the opportunity to leave a legacy, to confront these irrationalities, to confront the dystopian manifestation of this place. Now, I'm not saying the man's shoulder is so broad that he can do all of it, but can we make a start with the all money we have? Can we?
I think so, but I agree it comes back to whether we really, if I saw the president and his administration would have been pushing, let's make this into Dubai. The question that needs to be asked, Freddie, what kind of attitude or what kind of responsibilities comes along with that? Is it a government that takes the lead on that? How do you engineer the kind of push for the people
Look.
that is going to see them move towards Dubai? It's
Gildarie.
an attitude.
Gildarie, I lived in Georgetown all my life. I'm still in Georgetown because Turkey is Georgetown. Gildarie, we talk about evidence. We're asking these people who claim ethnic discrimination to provide the evidence. I have the evidence where the buildings that went up in Georgetown the past 20 years include some fantastic buildings that you see in Miami, that you see in developed countries. These buildings are not only commercial buildings. I've seen some houses, Gildarie, that if I walk another million years with you, I can't afford one of that. Gildarie, for the past 20 years, there has been a tsunami of buildings, huge buildings, commercial, private, that have went up. And the mayor and his deputy told me, and I wrote about it, that those buildings, all that you talk about, Freddie, we are not collecting rates and taxes from those places. Well, I am saying that this society don't exist. You run a red light tonight, Gildarie, the policeman is going to lock you up. And you have these extraordinary buildings that cost billions. And the mayor and the deputy mayor told me they don't pay taxes, and
But
there is
whose
no
fault is
law.
that, Freddie?
There is
you
no
are
law.
you're the guardians of
There's
the
no
gate
law.
of the city. You're the MNCC. What are you doing about it?
No,
Name and shame them.
there's no law to compel them to pay.
No, Freddie, but they're
Yes,
complaining. They have the authority to do it.
There's no law. You
The
can't-
MNCC don't have the authority to do
No,
it.
you have to sue them. And the
So
case,
why they not
and the
doing it?
case take 50 million years to
You
come
want
to
me to tell you
court.
the reason why? You really want to hear the reason
The
why?
people pay them off.
Well, you said it. Here is something interesting from Raymond Tiwari. Trucks should have their speed mechanically cut down to the speed limit so they cannot travel beyond the speed. They should be weighing station along the East Bank, East Coast, and roads in the other regions. Those traveling with excess over the maximum will be grounded and to pay substantial amount of fines, which will deter them from repeating the offense. The driver of the company should be held responsible if any vehicle damage. Forgive me, I just close it off here, just like Freddie. Damage any infrastructure, they must be held liable, be it an individual or those vehicles that belong to the company. This shall also be applied to all government vehicles. The drivers must be held responsible. I'm being told also that
Do
those
you know?
government vehicles don't have insurance.
No government vehicles,
So
and
if
the
they
army
crash
and the
into you, what
police don't have
happens?
insurance. If you get hit by the army or the police, no, they don't.
So where do you get your insurance from?
That's it.
That's it.
That's
But you
it.
know they're going to change. Why not?
I don't understand why that wouldn't change. Um, we just talk about why buildings are not paying rates and tax. That guy who asked that question, you should answer him by telling him why those trucks remain with immunity, because those trucks belong to big businesses, and you know what goes on. You know what you just say it with the city council. Do you know there's a restriction passed in this country that sand truck have to come down and do the delivery before 6 a.m. That's not to have sand trucks on these roads. Do you know every minute of the day you see those large containers and they kill people?
Freddie, I was told by a policeman, we were up putting on down one of the screens, and there was a policeman that was there with me. And the policeman says, if I tell you something, you'd be most amazed. He says, we stop them from time to time when they go in along these bank road to pick up the sand truck. And he says, some of them, you want to hear the frightening thing? He says some of the drivers are on the age, they're under 21. And some of them don't even have license. I say, you crazy? Freddie Kissoon, they go like about 100 miles an hour down these bank road. How you stopping
You
with
want
a full...
you want I tell your viewers something for those who are watching all over the world that they'll never believe? If you and I do another program like this, you know how much would come out? Do you know there is a Portuguese guy that drives all over, but I can only talk about Region 4, without a helmet? Nobody in another country, no matter how, in India he'd be in jail right away. There is a Portuguese guy in this country that passes roadblocks, passes police station, not the past 2 years, not the past 5 years, not the past 10 years. He just does not use a helmet. And that goes on in a modern Caribbean country.
We coming down to time. Freddie, something happened strange. I was driving along,
This is a crazy country.
2 more minutes. You got about 2 minutes. I drive along Lamaha
We
Street.
went
coming-
beyond the hour.
Yep, I know. But I think the conversation is sweet, right? But it is interesting. The people got a lot of things. I look. Forgive us, folks. We're trying to get a format right. I know that you guys, but when you're on a conversation, you cannot just leave it and just drop it just like that. We got to get the format right. We want to introduce with the phones and everything, because you need to have your say. You have a lot of issues, and you need to tell us what those issues are. It's only by expounding on them that we could be able to take it to the next level. We could ventilate. We could ask the government to step in, ask the regulatory agencies to step in, and we got to move this country. Our attitude to where it's at. Freddie, quickly.
Well, I started with saying that there are three things on my mind, and I would like to end on those three things. I think with the oil money we'll be having in the next 15 years, we never had that before except with sugar, and Bonham wasted it, really wasted that sugar. We should do something to elevate the poor and the powerless. There are too many single mothers as security guards. There are too many schools. I want to see 3-4 schools competing with Queen's College in other regions except Region 4. Secondly, I believe this country should start, as I said before, to encourage some kind of entrepreneurship in the African people. And thirdly, we must put it on the agenda that the way to equality is for us to help small business to grow. And I hope tonight I'm not joking. I think in a program like this, you can't make stale jokes. I'm not joking. I hope there are an increase in advertisements, especially from the government, on your screens.
I'm not complaining really, but thank you, Freddie. But somebody's calling for a campus on Essequibo course, and I do
Well, we
believe that
gotta
should be
go.
right.
We gotta go.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as normal, we're gonna miss you this weekend. We're gonna be back on Monday, Ganesh Mahipal, on this program here, and that's gonna be fiery. We asking the hard questions. Remain safe on the road and make sure you protect others and your properties. And please stay safe over the weekend until we see you again. Take care.